Slave driver. Coach. A lot of different names. Mentor. Teacher. Love it. I'm going to use the word manager just because it's easier to use one word. Whatever you consider yourself, that's what you need to think in your head. Coach, leader, mentor, teacher, whatever it is. Here's what it comes down to in effect. You are in charge of a group of people. Someone in this county interviewed you, liked what they saw and heard, hired you, and gave you a responsibility or offered you a responsibility that you earned. Now you must earn keeping that responsibility. And I am going to sock it to you today. This is not going to be one of those feel-good hours where I'm making you just feel good about yourself. I love doing that, but I'm going to sock it to you. Because as managers, you have responsibilities. There is one job in this state that is more important than yours, and that is emergency personnel. And many of you know I say that because my husband is law enforcement. The second most important job in this state is what you do. You make sure that the children of this state go home, of this county, go home with a hot meal in their belly at night. Many of them would not have that if it weren't for you. These children are the next generation. They're going to be taking care of us soon. We need to make sure that they have nutrition and that they are educated well enough to take care of us the way we want to be taken care of. So you have the second most important job. As the leader of your group, your job is even more important than your employees' jobs. So I'm going to give it to you hard today. The first two sessions, I could already tell who thought I was full of crap. Because the body language told me. As I'm going through and I'm talking about how to manage effectively and how to get your team to work positively together, and I get this, I know what's going on. You're thinking, Christy, you don't work where I work, and you don't have to put up with the garbage that I have to put up with. Guess what? I have been working for over 30 years. Public sector, private sector, all different types of jobs, and I have gone and worked in one of your cafeterias for, okay, a day. I'll give you that. Every team has one bad apple. Every team has one bad apple. We're just going to say that, acknowledge it, get it out of the way at the beginning. But here's what it comes down to. You have a team of people that depend on you to lead, mentor, guide, teach, to help them be the best that they can be so you can be the best that you can be. That's what is important today. For those of you who can see this picture, and I know it's a little bit difficult to see, especially from the back because it's small. This, and gentlemen, forgive me, I took it from the internet, that's why it says lunch lady, and I can't change it. But this is actually from a website called Perception versus Fact. Perception. Perception is reality. The way that someone thinks that they see something is what they believe. Let's look at this for just a second. So, lunch lady. What our friends think we do. So our friends think that we hand out meals to children. Okay, I think that's pretty accurate. Look at the next one. What society thinks we do. Society thinks you work at McDonald's. You work fast food. Is that what you do? No. Absolutely not. But society thinks that. What the students think we do. Those of you who can see that, it's the mean lunch lady yelling and with an ugly look on her face. And when the children take that home, what do the parents think? Same thing. Is that you?
Not me.
No.
I got a mean one in my kitchen though.
Could that be some of you? What the boss thinks we do. Look at the children. Making a big mess and leaving it in the kitchen. Some of you are sitting there thinking, I have employees that do that. But how many of your bosses think you do that? What I think we do, okay, a line that's working very well, serving the line, and then what we actually do, we serve with a smile. Here's my point. Perception is reality. How do your employees perceive you? And how do you perceive them? And is it right? Is it correct? Is it what's best for the team? We are talking about how to manage, how to lead your team effectively. I go into businesses all over the state of Florida, schools, cafeterias, cafeterias, hotels, restaurants, office staff, and I watch what's going on. Before I teach a class, I go and I watch that staff. And I'll go to a manager and I'll ask some questions, and 100% of the time, I get the same answer. When I say, why is your team not communicating effectively? Why is your team not working efficiently? Why is this person always late and that person's not? Why is this person doing the job of 2 people when this person's sitting on their behind? And 100% of the time, this is the answer that I get. Well, she's a problem, and he gossips, and she's always late, and he's always making up excuses, and she's just a bad apple. And I've tried to work with him for years, and I just can't get him past it. Look at this. There's a whole lot of that and that and that and that and that going on in there. 100% of the time, it's somebody else's fault. Raise your hand in the air. Raise your hand in the air. Come on. Fold in your thumb. Fold in these 3 fingers. There you go. Pointer finger. It's rude, but find someone in the room and point at them. When you point a finger at someone else, how many fingers will point back at you?
4. 3 fingers and a thumb.
3. This is a thumb. These are fingers.
3.
It's okay. All right. 3. Before you go pointing a finger at anyone else on your team for not working efficiently, effectively, for not communicating well, for not doing what needs to be done to make your job easier, before you point a finger at anyone else, you better be pointing 3 fingers back at yourself first. My great-grandmother used to say, you better worry about your own backyard before you go worry about your neighbor's backyard. Clean up your yard first. So that's what my challenge is to you today. Every single thing I talk about, I am going to ask who is responsible, and your answer is me. Whose job is that? Mine. And who do I need to point the fingers at?
Me.
Myself. Me. Myself. That's what we're talking about here today. How do you lead an effective team? Now, if you are following along in your worksheets and you want to turn to page 2, that's where we're going to start. If you don't have worksheets, we're going to get them to you electronically because we're all out. My number 1 tip or secret, if you will, to being a great leader is to fully understand this concept right here. A fish rots from the head down. Somebody tell me what that means.
Starts from you.
And when we're running, the whole fish is running.
There you go. It all starts at the head. If the head is stinky, the rest of the fish is stinky. If you are stinky, your team is stinky. If you rot, your team rots. If you have a horrible attitude, your team will have a horrible attitude. That is not to say that your team doesn't come in with that horrible attitude. Of course, we have those days. But whose responsibility is it to not be drugged down by the team to that horrible attitude, but instead to take it up 2 notches to bring them up? Mine, yours, the manager. A fish rots from the head down. When the manager is lying, the team will lie. When the manager is doing things that are not allowed, the team will do things that are not allowed. When the manager has a crap attitude, the team will have a crap attitude. A fish rots from the head down. If you will live your management life according to this right here, your team will be effective because this is up to you. So let's look at how to lead by example. You are what your team looks to every day, all the time. Your team spends more time with you than they do at home with their own family. Think about that. My gosh, we spend more time at work than we do at home. You are the example that your team follows. If someone is not doing something well, rather than blaming them, perhaps you need to ask yourself, what did I not do well in this situation? And point those 3 fingers at yourself. So if someone does something incorrectly, rather than saying, you did it wrong, perhaps you should ask yourself first, did I communicate effectively what was expected? Did I make sure the person understood what what needed to be done. When they didn't, did I go and ask them why they didn't understand it and how I could help them? So constantly be pointing those three fingers back at yourself. Think about, is the problem me? Rather than immediately wanting to point fingers at your employees and say that it's them. Never forget the effect that you have on your team. You can have a positive effect or you can have a negative effect on your team. And you know, I think as a manager, it's so hard to remember that people are constantly watching. My team is constantly watching me. They're constantly listening to me as their guide for what to do. You get busy, right? All of you get busy. You've got 100 different things you're responsible for, whether you're admin staff working in the office or whether you are in the cafeterias. You've got 100 different things you're responsible for and thinking about all the time. And to constantly make yourself stop and think, what is the perception that my team has of me right now in this situation? That's just one more thing you have to think about. How many days does it take to form a habit? 21 is what they say, yes. Here's my challenge. Everything we talk about today, try it for 30 days. A little bit more than 21, 4 weeks, 1 month, 30 days. And see if it doesn't make a difference. Ladies, gentlemen, forgive me, I'm going to give a ladies example here. You see the latest, greatest face product, right? It's supposed to take off every wrinkle, reduce 20 years off your life instantly, right? So you buy it, you pay $100 for this face cream. You try it for what? A week, maybe? It doesn't work. You don't get instant results. What do?
Stop using
Yes.
it.
It goes into the drawer with all the other $100 creams that you gave 1 week to try and they didn't work. How long do the cosmetic companies tell you you're supposed to try it? 30 days. But you're not, you know what, you don't get the instant results you're looking for, so you put it in the drawer, you throw it away, or you give it to somebody who uses it for 30 days and has fabulous results, right? You've got to give this stuff 30 days. So as I'm talking about the different things to try and do, you can't just go in after today and say, oh, I'm going to have a positive attitude. And by Friday go, yeah, this is not working. Christy's full of it, and give up. 30 days. You have got to, for 30 days, try to see what kind of effect you can have on your team. Leading by example. Keep in mind, when you're leading by example, no one will follow a leader who lies to them. I want you to think back to a time before you were a manager. You were an employee, whether it was here or somewhere else. When you were an employee, what did you look for from your manager? What did you want? What did you desire? And when you found out that a manager or supervisor, whatever the case may be, had lied to you in some way, how did it make you feel? Terrible. Did you trust them? No. After that? No. You don't want your employees to feel that way about you. No one wants to follow a leader who lies to them. There are times when you cannot give information. Perhaps the administration or the principal or somebody says, you can tell them A and B, but you cannot tell them C and D. Okay, there's a big difference in information I can't give you versus me just flat out lying to you. There is not a reason to lie to your employees. If an employee comes to me and says, well, I hear so-and-so's really sick and they're going in for surgery, what's wrong? I can't tell you that's a personnel issue. What I can do is say, I'm sure that she will be fine, but I can't give you that personal information. Okay? Don't lie. Tell them what you can tell them. And then it says to never fail the Washington Post test. So as a supervisor, never fail the Washington Post test. What's the Washington Post? It's a newspaper. Why would I say never fail the Washington Post test? Give me an idea. Okay. What else? Say it again. Okay. All right. So Washington Post is a newspaper. Writes news articles. Sometimes gossips. Needs to be fact. Okay. What else? Depends, yes. I probably should change it to a different that story published and sent to your friends and your family. If you are getting ready to do something, if you are getting ready to make a decision of some kind, and you ask yourself, if a newspaper reporter were standing right here, getting ready to write a newspaper, or let's take it a step further, if someone were getting ready to videotape me, would I be embarrassed if my grandma in the nursing home in Michigan saw that? If your answer is yes, don't do it. If your answer is no, you're good. This is Ethics 101. Okay? Here's what's going to happen. Your employees will follow the lead that you are providing. I know there is a bad apple in every bunch. I know. But generally, 99% of your employees will follow your lead if you set it consistently and they trust you. So, ask yourself before you do anything, would it pass the newspaper test? We'll just change that to the newspaper test. Now, the next thing is to establish an atmosphere of positivity. Do we all have crap that happens? Crap's my favorite word today, by the way. Do we all have junk that happens, garbage that happens? Yeah? Okay. I have a dog that throws up on the carpet, a car that breaks down, 2 children, girls, by the way, God help me, a husband in law enforcement. What else? Oh, bills that aren't paid. Can some of y'all relate? Yeah. Okay. Mother-in-law in the nursing home about to die. I mean, we all have garbage. We all have stuff that goes on in life. Would everyone agree with that? Yes. When I come into work, where do I need to leave the garbage? Outside the door. It's mine. I can bring it. I can bring it in my car. I can wallow in it and enjoy it all the way to work. But when I get to work, I need to leave it right outside that door. And everyone else on my team needs to do that as well. When I leave, I can pick it up and take it with me. But I need to leave it out there. That's not to say we don't care about people. We should care about people. What's going on? Is someone sick? Does someone have a family issue? Of course we want to care about people. Especially as managers, you need to know if someone's distracted by something going on in life, because that can take their attention away from their work a little bit. But I had a horrible night, my back hurt again, whatever. You know what? Let's leave it all at the door.
Thank you.
Oh, my kids are driving me crazy. Leave it at the door. We have enough children right here to drive us crazy. We do not need yours from home brought in here as well. Again, you set the tone. If you are coming in and throwing it all out there, once you get in the kitchen or in your office or wherever, everybody else is going to know it's okay to do that too. Set the example. Set a tone of positivity. Now, the first thing that you see up here, as far as establishing an atmosphere of positivity, is to communicate effectively. Communication is key, and those of you who have been with me for a few years here, as I've come during the summer, we've talked about communication over and over and over again. It is so vital that you are communicating effectively. How many ears do most of us have? 2. How many mouths? 1. Use the one you've got the most of first. You have got to develop the ability to listen effectively to people. Now, listening effectively does not mean that you're looking at them and acting like you're listening and thinking 25 other things in your head at the same time. You have a lot of things going on. That is a given. And many times people talk to us about things that really we don't care about. We're not interested in. It doesn't matter to us. But when you are at work and you are a manager and an employee is speaking to you, you need to be able to listen effectively so that you can teach, guide, help in some way. Yes?
Okay, but what if you say to somebody who's speaking about something that you've already addressed and they fail repetitively saying the mistake over and over again, and you feel like you've communicated efficiently several times over?
Okay. I couldn't have paid you better to walk me into the next section. My first question to you is, are you sure you are communicating in a way that they can understand? Okay? How do you know that for sure? Because if they're coming back to you with the same mistake again and again and again, my question is, point 3 fingers at you and ask, are you communicating in a way they can
But then I'm
understand?
going to look at, am I having that issue with just one particular person, or concern. I had that issue with everybody always.
And that came up earlier today as well. So my question to you, oh, well, is this your bad apple?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Probably not much you can do about it. Sorry, I'm sorry. There is the one. And in this county, you're in a union and the bad apple gets passed from school to school to school, and the write-ups don't count the next year. You have to start over. So I understand that. The bad apple, I may not be able to help you with that. Generally, if you have the same person and you're having to have the same conversation over and over and over again, my question is, how am I not communicating in a way that this person can get it? In your case, that person may just not want to get it, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not helping you in this respect, other than to tell you, you're stuck.
The situation is what it is.
It is, you're stuck. But generally, what the question is here is, are you communicating in a way that the person can understand? Every one of us communicates differently. Would you agree?
Yes.
Every one of us learns differently? Okay. What are the 3 learning styles?
Visual, audio,
Okay.
and reading.
All right, there you go. Visual, I can see something and get it. Auditory, I can hear something and get it. And then hands-on or kinesthetic. You have to get a person's hands in there and get them working with something. So if I am an auditory manager, if you can give me an instruction and I get it like that, and I assume that everyone else on my team can do that, am I going to have an effective team? No, because not everyone is auditory. So I have to look at, you didn't get it when I told you what to do. Perhaps you need a visual. You need an instruction sheet or a picture or something of that nature. I have to try that. If that doesn't work, I'm going to hands-on. Let me get her hands in there and let her do it and practice it and show her. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, Chrissy, I don't have time for all that. You better darn sure make time. You are a manager. You have a responsibility. It is your responsibility to teach and train your employees to do their job to the best of their ability. And if she's hands-on, it's my responsibility to take my time to teach her hands-on how to do that job. And if I'm not willing to do that, I shouldn't be a manager. This is not, your situation is different, okay? Okay, let me finish, because I want to tell you one more thing you need to keep in mind with the learning styles and the communication styles. I am going to blow you away and tell you there's a number 4 now. If you are not aware, anyone in here have anyone under the age of 28 or so? Okay. You have probably experienced this. There is a 4th learning style now called reflective. What that means is you have 2 generations that are coming into the workforce right now, and they have had the visual of the handheld, they've had the earbuds, the auditory, and they've had the kinesthetic simultaneously since the age of 2-ish. And they can actually do all 3. And you must give them that opportunity or they will not be effective. Now, what the American Psychological Association says is that if you give them all 3, they will naturally gravitate towards one over time. But as managers, you have got to know, you've got to try all of those with them. So be alert that you've got those younger ones coming in that have that ability. Yes?
So, I mean, it's safe when you give them an instruction, like simply, like, okay, I'll take one situation in my school, like, some of the products, they come with papers that they're specifically supposed to go into, and we put it on the line so it all looks nice. All right, they did it the one time, but not even you needed to say anything. But the next time that you guys have the same thing on the menu, it's like the papers are all of a sudden forgotten about. Like it never happened. It's like you never sat there and had that conversation. Like you never told them, but you know you did, and they did it perfectly. But now all of a sudden they're not.
Okay, so now you tell them.
Now we're talking about consistency.
Okay, so you tell them the second time, and then you see what happens the third time. Yeah, so what he said, in case you didn't hear, was the first time that the food with the little papers goes out, they do it just fine. They do it very well. Second time, they act like they've never even seen the little papers. What the heck are you even talking about? All right? So what do? You think they've got it. Maybe they don't have it. My answer was, tell them what they need to do, show them what they need to do, and see what happens the third time. You may have some people who are just being hard-headed. Yeah, they're just trying to be pains in the... Yeah, okay? So you got to figure out how to deal with them. You and I probably need to have an offline conversation. Okay? So, are you communicating in a way that can be understood? get it, show them. If showing them doesn't help, work with them on it. Talk to them and ask them, why did you not put the little pieces of paper there? Oh, I forgot. Okay, well, we can't forget. What can I do next time to make sure that you remember to put the little pieces of paper there? Chrissy, I don't have time to remind them of that every time. You are sure better. You are a manager. It's your responsibility to make sure they're doing their jobs and doing it well. Would I love to think that your employees would take full initiative to do everything right every time? I would love to think that, but it's not going to happen. And you've got to, that's just reality. Not going to happen. Yes? Reflective. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and reflective.
How long does it take to break a habit?
21 days, supposedly. There is actually no scientific proof to that 21-day thing, by the way. Some man, yeah, there's really not. A man wrote it in a book years and years and years ago, like in the 50s, and it stopped. But there's no scientific proof. If you ask someone, though, who has stopped smoking or something like that, how many days until you got over that hump, most people will tell you about 21, about 3 weeks. Yeah. Okay, here's the next thing. As you are establishing a positive environment, ask your employees what they think. What are their opinions and what are their ideas? Now, I hear some laughing a little bit because you're scared of what you might actually hear from people. Some people might have some negative, nasty things to say. Some people might take this as an opportunity to really tell you what they think, and you really don't want to know what they think. But again, I want you to go back to when you were not a manager. And I want you to think about how good did it make you feel when somebody asked for your opinion. When somebody asked for you to give your idea for how to do something better. Think about how fulfilling that was to you. You need to do that to your employees. Yeah, you're going to get the jokes. You're going to get the people who blow it off. Don't worry about them. Out of 5, you're going to have one really great idea. And then make sure that you are actually implementing something. It can be something really, really small. But the first time someone throws out a great idea and you actually do it, you take it and you run with it, that's going to be like the little dog that you can't get rid of from now on. They're going to be following behind you, wanting to do everything for you, with you, as best they can. Because you have made them feel empowered. And that's what you have to think about, how empowered you feel when your boss asks your opinion on something. They may not take your opinion. They may go the opposite direction, but the mere fact that they asked you makes you feel good. And it gives them buy-in in a way. So make sure you're asking people what they think about things, what their opinion is, what their ideas are. It is so try it. 30 days. I am just begging you, try it. Bring your team together. And on a Monday morning, you know there's something you need to do that's different than what you were doing before. Bring them together. This is a new procedure that we need to do this week. Does anybody have an idea of how we can do it better or faster? One person may say something. 2 or 3 may say something. One person may come to you later in private and say something because they weren't sure what to say in the group. Those are the ones that really have the best ideas. They're too shy to tell you in the group, but they'll come to you later and tell you if they feel like they can trust you. And that takes us to creating a climate of trust. How important is it that you are a manager that your team can trust?
Very important.
Extremely important. Think about yourself again. It's important that you can trust your manager or your supervisor. And if you can't, for some reason, think about why you don't and make sure that you're not turning around and doing that to your employees. If you do trust your supervisor or your manager, why do you? And make sure that you're turning around and you are doing that to your employees. The positive things that you experience, you should be imparting down. The negative things that you experience up the line, you should put a stop to and do not use that behavior. You don't take on your supervisor's negative behavior and push it down the line. It stops with you. You have that power. So, a climate of trust. People on your team have got to be able to trust that you have their best interest at heart. The first part of this is to make sure that you are training your team. How in the world can you expect people on your team to do the job you need and want them to do if you are not willing to teach them to do it? That is your job. That is your responsibility. You have to teach them. You have to know what they need to know, so you have to observe. You have to talk. You have to communicate. And then you need to teach them in a way that they can understand. But it's your responsibility to train your people. It is not the county's responsibility. It is not Wanda's responsibility. It is not another employee's responsibility to train your staff. It is your responsibility. Now, if you've got manager, assistant manager, and all that, there may be a level there. But if you and I have the exact same job, it is not my responsibility to train her. It is yours. You are the manager. Okay? Here's the next thing. Do not pit dog against dog.
That's right.
There is never, ever a time where you should compare one employee to another employee in front of anyone else. You shouldn't do it at all, but definitely not in front of anyone else. There is not ever a time where I should say, well, why can't you do it like she does it? And I want you to just think about what I just said. Let me repeat it. Why don't you do it like she does it? How many times have you yourself said that to your own employees? And some of you are sitting there going, oh no, Christy, I would never do that. Guaranteed half the people in this room have done that. That is a normal, natural human behavior, number one, and we're all humans, we all make mistakes. But if you don't stop to think about what you're saying to people, those types of things pop out of your mouth before you even realize it. Well, she understood me, why do you understand me? Whoa, you just compared the two of them and pitted them against each other. When I say that, what then happens? What do the employees start doing? Same thing. Well, yeah, she understood me. Why didn't you understand me? Oh, well, she never understands anything. And next thing you know, everybody's talking nasty about her in the bathroom. And who started that? The manager. Don't ever compare your employees. If you have to correct someone or reprimand someone, take them in a private setting to do it. Your office, in the kitchen when nobody else is there, out back. I don't care, somewhere private and away from other people. Now, if there's a safety situation, if someone's getting ready to cut themselves with a knife or put their hand in an oven with no mitt, if you have to stop someone from doing something in front of other people because there's a safety issue, that's one thing. But what I'm talking about is when you have to correct someone's behavior or performance or attitude, do not do it in front of another employee. First of all, your other employees just lost trust in you. Because if she's doing it to her, she's going to do it to me. And I don't want her to do that to me. And it then makes the employees go up against each other. And when your team is going through that stuff, they're not effective. So don't do it. If you find yourself doing it, stop. Don't do it. The next thing is, know that even the worst screw up can be redeemable. We all make mistakes? Okay? How many of you in here are willing to admit that at some point in your career, you have made a mistake that could have gotten you fired? Yeah, easily. Oh. Really? But you know what? You went in, you fessed up to it, you learned from it, you gained something from it, you promised to work to never happen. It may have even happened a second time or a third time, but you worked at getting better at whatever it was. Every person makes mistakes. Now, if the same person is making the same mistake over and over and over again, then we might be at the bad apple situation, or this is just over their head. They're just not ever going to get it. Do they need to be in a different position, or do they need to not be working for us at all? That's an HR issue. That's for another day. But generally, this is okay. So, welcome to Bad News Messenger. What do you think I would mean by that?
Somebody that gossips.
Sure, don't shoot the messenger. When someone comes to give you bad news, don't take it out on them. I'm going to take it one step further. Who in here has children? Many of us have children. At my house, when my children were young, as soon as they were able to understand, we taught them to tell us when something is broken. If you go and shove Barbie down the toilet, come and tell Mommy that Barbie is stuck in the toilet so Mommy can fix the toilet. toilet, and if it happens again, we're going to get a spanking. That's a whole different conversation for later. But what's important is you will not get in trouble at that moment because mommy needs to get Barbie out of the toilet and fix the toilet. If you walk in the kitchen and water is flowing out of the bottom of the dishwasher because you used laundry soap instead of dishwasher soap, do not take off your shoes and slide across the kitchen floor. Come and tell mommy that the dishwasher is broken. We'll discuss again what soap to use. You will not get in trouble, but come and tell me we need to fix it. How many times does one of your employees come to tell you that something's broken, that they're sick or hurt, that there's a problem of some kind, and you immediately react in the negative?
I do it all the time.
Your attitude is such that it makes them not want to come to you. Think about it. Okay, here's another example. You have to think about your employees like children and animals. And I'm not saying your employees are animals. I'm just saying as we train them, that's how. If you have a dog, and when the dog gets out the front door, he takes off running, and you better get back here, you better get back here. Is that dog going to come to you? No, that dog is going to keep running. Here's what I have learned with my basset. When my basset gets out the front door, I say, ooh, mommy's got treats, treats, treats. And that dog will hightail it right back to mommy with those treats. And I give him a treat, and I take him in the house, and I love, thank you so much for coming back. You're such a good boy. My husband yells, and the dog takes off. And I have to run around the street with treats, yelling, treat, treat. Don't teach your employees that when they come to you that you're going to yell and scream and get mad and freak out. No. Come to me and tell me when something's wrong, broken, we're out of something. Somebody dropped an entire tray of the pizza and it's gone and the kids are upset and the parents are going to be mad. It's okay. Thank you for telling me. Let's fix the problem. And then we'll deal with what needs to be dealt with. If it's an issue of we need to retrain or we need to handle a personnel issue or something, we'll do that later. But don't be scared to come to me. So yes, don't shoot the messenger, and definitely teach your employees to trust you enough to come to you. Okay? Children and dogs, Jules and dogs. Protect and stand up for your team. There is nothing more important than building a climate of trust than for you to stand up for and protect your team. Again, I want you to think about how do you feel when you're, what's the next lineup from you guys? Coordinator? Okay. Think about when your coordinator stands up for you, how does it make you feel? He's got my back. He is there for me all the time. And what happens? You work harder and better for him because of that. Take that and apply it down to your employees. Okay? There was a contest. Your school won. You're supposed to get a particular prize. Oh, sorry. The administrative office, we ran out of money. We can't give the prize this semester. We might be able to do it next semester. Stand up for your team. My team won this contest. My team deserves what they were promised. You may not get it, okay? Administrative office can't get money off trees. You may not get it, but the mere fact that you stood up for your team makes them trust you. And that's what you want. If you can get it, or get something different, or go to the principal, or the PTA, whatever. I don't care. Stand up for your team. No, let them know that you have got their back no matter what. Even the bad apple. Let them know you have their back. You're working hard to help them to be the best that they can be. All right, the next thing is to be educated about one another. And again, those of you who have been with me for a few years know I'm really big on this. You have got to know the people who are working for you. How in the world am I supposed to know how to lead, guide, teach, mentor if I don't know anything about you? Now, I don't need to know your personal business. I don't need to know what doctor you're seeing. I don't need to know what kind of surgery you're having. I don't need to know, what your physical, relationship with your spouse is or whatever. I don't need to know all that. What I do need to know is what makes you act the way you do and what makes you say the things you do. What makes you go, What's your background? Do you have a military background? Someone's behavior who has been in the military, who's now in this setting, they're going to have a very different reaction to things than someone who hasn't had a military background. How many siblings do you have? What type of home or city were you raised in? How many times did you move? Do I understand this? Do we understand the same language? Do we both speak the same languages in a way that we can understand? Those are the types of things we need to know about each other. How hard is it, though, to get to know people when they will share with you things about themselves? Hard. You have people who are, they're introverts, they're personal, they're quiet, they don't want to share, they're scared of you for some reason, scared of anybody on the staff. There are a lot of different activities that you can do to get people on your team talking. We don't have time to do any of those today, but some of you remember the ball exercise that we've done in the past, the question ball. If you want some suggestions on activities that you can do to get your team talking, my email is on the front of your worksheets. Email me, and I'll send you some suggestions of ways that you can get people talking so that you can actually get educated about the people on your team and you can know some things about them. Oh, what a nice sound. The angels. The next thing says, see the cafeteria through your team's eyes. Again, how often, once we get to management, do we step back and say, what is it like to be an employee here? Once you get to management, you're home free, right? Especially if you've been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20 years. When was the last time you stepped back into one of your employees' pair of shoes and walked in their shoes and looked at things through their eyes? Those of you who are saying every day, kudos to you. Keep it up. The mentality of I wouldn't ask my staff to do anything I wouldn't do myself, excellent mentality. The fish rots from the head down. When the manager refuses to do the job of the employee, refuses to do the job of the employee. Constantly be stepping back and looking at what's going on through your employee's eyes, not just yours. I'm going to go out on a limb and make a suggestion. Hope I don't get in trouble. Position switch for one day. Position switch for one day. Think about it. Think about it. Your employee will have a very different impression of what you go through every day, and you may be reminded of what it's like to be an employee under you as a manager. Something to think about. Okay, here's the next thing. Find the round pegs to go in the round holes. Have you ever, I want to go back, non-manager, before you became who you are. Have you ever been in a job where you were a square peg and somebody was trying to shove you into this round hole? And you're thinking, this isn't comfortable. This doesn't work. I don't like this. I'm unhappy. I'm miserable. I don't want to go to work because I'm not in the right job. I'm not being trained appropriately. I'm not being helped by my supervisor to fit where I need to fit. Whose job is it to make sure that your employees are fitting where they need to fit? Yours. It is not theirs. It is yours. You need to talk to them. You need to communicate with them, and you need to find out if this is not working, why is it not working? It may be something that you can pinpoint, but it may be something that you have to get from them. So you're going to have to communicate. You're going to have to talk to them. You've got to figure out how to get those round pegs into the round holes and make sure that you've got the right people in the right jobs. And use the power of word magic. And we've talked about that for many years that I have been with you all. Words can control so much. Tone of voice that you use with the words can control so much. Facial expressions with the tone of voice, with the words, can control so much. But you have to be aware of all of that. Now, there are times where you will end up in negative conflict. That nasty, ugly, mean, backstabbing, biting, horrible type of conflict. And those of you who have been through the conflict management workshop with me have seen some of my top rules before. more. However, this list is a little bit different because it is specific to managers. There are some things that you are expected to do even more than your employees are expected to do. And when you do them, you set the example for them to follow. But as managers, you have a higher responsibility. Again, someone entrusted you with the leadership of a group of people. You earned your job, now you have to earn the right to keep your job. So when you get into a conflict situation, there are some things that you have to be the bigger person and do. The first one is to handle your anger professionally. Give me definitions of professionally. Say it again. You're right. You're right. You're just, oh, I'm right, or you tell them they're right. You know what? You know, I love it. That if my husband does that to me, we're good to go. I love that, honey. You're right. You're right. We're good. You're right. What were you going to say? Okay, don't yell. No yelling. Yelling is not professional. Yelling, screaming, is speaking down to someone, condescending. No. I do love that, though. You're right. That would just solve so much. It would. What do you say?
Eric person was there all holding it together and just speaking normally, and I was speaking myself. And you're right. If you have somebody who's constantly going off the rocker, yelling, making noise, getting agitated, then they're automatically wrong. And they could be totally right with what they're saying. Because they're coming at it the wrong way, it makes them wrong.
Perception.
Exactly.
We're back to that original picture, the perception. Handle your anger professionally. No yelling, no screaming. Keeping yourself calm. Keeping your demeanor where you are in control, because the other person may not be in control, right?
Yes.
If you are in control, at least one of you are in control. Listen. All right, we're going to get to that. I think it's number 4. Look at number 2. Stop and listen without speaking and without being distracted. Stop and listen. When you have 2 people and they're arguing and one person shuts up, what happens? There's no argument. Think about it. When 2 people are arguing and one of them shuts up, there is no argument. It is one person spewing from their mouth and nothing. There's nothing. It's one person who is spewing. If you will stop and listen, first of all, it will stop an argument, and number 2, it's going to take them by surprise. It's going to knock them off their feet because they're going to go, wait a second, why is she not saying anything? And they're suddenly going to stop. Maybe they'll realize how stupid they sound. Perhaps the fact that you, like what you said, you're staying very calm and cool and collected. Maybe that'll de-escalate the situation. Not always, but many times it will. Stop and listen without speaking and without being distracted. The next thing is to think before you speak. So once it is your turn to speak, don't do the same thing the other person just did. Don't just vomit all those words right out of your mouth without thinking. Stop and think. If I asked people in this room who actually stop and think before they speak to stand up, my guess would be there would truly be about 5 of you who stop to think before you let it come out. And there are some of you who go, oh no, I think hard about it before it comes out, and it still comes out. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about. Professional. You're listening. You are thinking about how you want to respond in a professional way. Who has the power? You. You have the power. The other person is agitated, upset, mad, angry. Their conscious mind has shut down. They are not thinking clearly. It is up to you to retain the power. So let's look at the next one, which is what you said, is repeat back what is said. Many times the person who you're having a conflict with just wants to know they were heard. Think about that. And we don't stop to think. That's, again, I'm going back to that. We think, oh, this person is abusive. This person, they just want attention. Oh, whatever we want to say about the other person. Many times, a person just wants to be heard. When you're mad at the credit card company or the cell phone company or Comcast or whoever, and you call up to complain, really, what is the number 1 thing you want? You just want to be heard. Number 2, you want to fix it or give your money back or whatever. But you really, first of all, you want to be heard. The other person that you're involved with in this conflict, many times they just want to be heard. Let them be heard. Just listen. Repeat back so they know exactly what you heard. The next one is keep focused on the issue at hand. How many times do we let people take us down 22 different rabbit holes? And we end up way off of what the issue at hand was. Who's the manager? You are. Who has the control? You do. If you are listening and paying attention, you know what the issue is. So even though this person is off on 5 different other issues, you can keep coming back to where you need to come back to because you are paying attention and you are thinking clearly. That is your responsibility. I have an employee who consistently does not turn in her timesheet on time, which then causes my other employees to not be able to get paid because payroll can't be processed without it. I need your timesheet to be turned in on time. Oh, but my children, my son I had to put him in a different school, and then my daughter got sick. I need for your timesheet to be turned in on time. Oh, well, but then his daddy got involved. Said something about getting an attorney. And here, I'm thinking, yes, you probably do need an attorney. You need to sue somebody. Okay, stop. I need your timesheet to be turned in on time. You have the power to keep the issue at hand. I am glad to listen to you about your child and get an attorney. I'm glad to help you in any way I can later. But right now, I need your timesheet because people need to get paid. Keep focused on the issue at hand. The next one, you cannot take back words. Once they are out, and words are as harmful as kicking somebody in the back of the knee and taking them down. Words hurt. Think about what you're saying before you say it. The next one, don't get historical. What do I mean?
Don't be emotional.
Not hysterical. Look at it. Historical. Don't go back. It doesn't matter what happened 3 years ago. We've already dealt with that, or if we haven't, bad on me, the manager I should have. What's important is right now. Okay? If you didn't turn your timesheet in 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, or last year, I really should have fired you for not doing it, which I can't do. Like you, I have systems I have to follow. Don't get historical. What's important is right now. Okay? Don't let people take you out. Do not threaten unless you plan to carry through. Now, I told you to think about your employees like children. Listen, if you are the type of parent who says, if you fail that test, I'm going to spank you, and then they fail the test and you don't spank. And you say, if you fail that test, I'm going to spank you, and they fail the test and you don't spank. And this goes on. What does that child learn? You're not going to spank. There is no consequence to failing this test. If you are dealing with an employee and you say, you know what, if you do that wrong again, I'm going to write you up, and you do nothing. You know, if you come in late again, I'm going to write you up, and you do nothing. What do they learn? That you will do nothing. Do not threaten unless you're going to carry through with that threat. They will not trust you. The other employees will not trust you, and it does not help in a conflict situation. Number 9, be careful with your actions. You never know who's watching. Videos. You guys have cameras in your cafeterias. Those kids have cell phones. The county commissioner came in just to see what was going on today. Never know who's watching. Number 10, and we will be done, learn to let it go. When there is a conflict situation, it is done, it is over, and it is finished. Listen to me. Listen to me. Don't check out yet. If you are the type of manager who you just let it eat you up for days, weeks, months past the time that it happened, and you continue to revisit it, you are in the wrong job. You cannot do that. As a manager, you deal with what needs to be dealt with in a professional, private way, showing respect, and you let it go. Do not let it eat you up. Do your job, do it well, do it strong. You and I will have an offline conversation about your bad apple. Now, before I turn it over, your last sheet is an evaluation from the Department of Agriculture that proves that I was here and did my job. So if you will fill that out, and before you leave, just drop it on the front table. And I'm going to turn it over to these ladies now. Thank you very much for being here with me. Wait, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go. Sorry. It is.
Okay, before you go, you need to, first of all, everyone